We will wait for 1 minute.
Yeah, okay, Dr. Abid sir.
Myself, Dr. Abid Naimuddin, working as Associate Professor in EEE Department and also convener of this webinar. Honorable Chairman Sri P. Subbareddy Garu, respected Principal Dr. B. Srinivas Reddy Garu, Head of various departments, eminent faculty members, energetic participants from various engineering colleges, and Head of the department, Dr. K. Sri Gauri, and Head of the ECS department, Dr. R. Praveen Sam, sir, and the students of our college, good afternoon to all of you. To this webinar organized by Department of Electrical and Electronics Engineering and the Department of Emerging Technologies in Computer Science in association with NI LabVIEW Academy of GPREC and Microcare Academy. Now we will start today's session with a prayer song by Miss K. Anjali and Vasanti of 2nd Rugli.
गणनायकाय गणदैवताय गणाध्यक्षाय धीमहि गुणशरीराय गुणमण्डिताय गुणेशानाय धीमहि गुणातीताय गुणाधीशाय गुणप्रदिष्टाय धीमहि एकदन्ताय वक्रतुण्डाय गौरीतनयाय धीमहि गजेशानाय बालचन्द्राय श्रीगणेशाय धीमहि एकदन्ताय वक्रतुण्डाय गौरीतनयाय धीमहि गजेशानाय बालचन्द्राय श्रीगणेशाय धीमहि गानचतुराय गानप्राणाय गानान्तरात्मने गानोत्सुकाय गानमत्ताय गानोत्सुकमनसे गुरुपूजिताय गुरुदैवताय गुरुकुलस्थाय गुरुविक्रमाय गुरुप्रवराय गुरवे गुरुगुरवे गुरुदैव कलाक्षेत्रे गुरुधर्मसदाराध्याय गुरुपुत्र परित्रात्रे गुरुपाखण्डकण्डकाय गीतसाराय गीततत्त्वाय गीतगोत्राय धीमहि गूढगुल्फाय गन्धमत्ताय गोजयप्रदाय धीमहि गुणातीताय गुणाधीशाय गुणप्रविष्टाय धीमहि एकदन्ताय वक्रतुण्डाय गौरीतनयाय धीमहि गजेशानाय बालचन्द्राय श्रीगणेशाय धीमहि श्रीगणेशाय धीमहि श्रीगणेशाय धीमहि.
Thank you, Anjali and Nosanti. Now I request our department HOD, Dr. K. Srigori, to address the participants.
Good morning, all of you. Honorable Chairman, Secretary Subhadip, respected Principal Dr. K. Srigori. Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, Doctor Madam, yes. Okay, please proceed. Yeah, please proceed.
Hello. Hello, Naeem, sir.
Yes, madam, you can continue, madam.
Okay, there is some disturbance, sir. Shall I start, sir?
Yes, madam, yes, madam.
Okay, sir. So, good afternoon to you all and warm welcome to this webinar on web development organized by Department of Electrical and Electronics Engineering and Department of Emerging Technologies in Computer Science in association with NI Labio Academy of GPRC and Microcare Academy, Kurnool. This webinar is meant to disseminate the knowledge in the field of full stack development with special reference to modern techniques. Full stack development refers to the practice of developing both the client-side and server-side components of a web application. This includes designing and developing the user interface, managing the database, and writing the server-side logic that powers the application. The full stack developer is typically skilled in a range of technologies and programming languages including HTML, CSS, JavaScript, PHP, Python, Ruby, and SQL. They are capable of handling everything from the user interface to the server-side logic and are often responsible for ensuring that application is both functional and secure. There are different types of web development including static websites, dynamic websites, e-commerce websites, web applications, and mobile web development. Each type of web development requires different skills and technologies, and web developers often specialize in one or more of these areas. Some of the key responsibilities of a full stack developer include designing and implementing user interfaces using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, developing server-side applications using a range of programming languages and frameworks, creating and managing databases including designing database, schema, and writing queries, ensuring that applications are scalable, secure, and efficient, testing and debugging applications to ensure that they are working properly, collaborating with other developers and stakeholders to ensure that applications meet user requirements and are delivered on time. Full stack development is a complex and challenging discipline, but it is very much essential for building modern web applications that are reliable, scalable, and efficient. I thank K. Sajid Ali Khan for accepting our invitation and spending his valuable time with us. And I also request the participants to utilize this opportunity and get benefited from this webinar. Thank you, sir. Now I request Dr. Naeemuddin sir, convener of the webinar, to take over the session.
Thank you, madam. Now I request co-convener of the workshop to introduce about the workshop.
Good afternoon, one and all. Myself, Dr. G. Venkateswara, Associate Professor of Electrical and Electronics Engineering Department and co-convener of this webinar on web development, organized by the Department of Tribly and Department of ECE in association with NI Labio Academy of GPRC and Microcare Academy, Kurnool. I am very happy to share that we got tremendous response from the participants. A total number of 1033 participants have been registered for this webinar. In this webinar, the speaker will introduce you about various technologies used in web development such as HTML, CSS, JavaScript, .NET, jQueries, etc. The duration of this webinar has been scheduled between 3 to 4:30 p.m. The session will be handled by Mr. Syed Ali Khan, Developer Manager, Microcare Solutions, Kingdom of Saudi. I hope that all your support and encouragement, the webinar is going to be a grand success. I am sure that all participants of this webinar will be benefited. I request all participants to stay online and mute your audio and video for smooth conduction of webinar. The feedback link will be shared at the end of the session in the chat box window of the YouTube live session. Kindly submit the feedback which will be considered to provide the participation certificate. Thank you. Now I request Dr. Abid Naimuddin, convener of the webinar, to take over the session.
Thank you very much, Dr. G. Venkat Subbareddy Garu. Now, I request Sri K. Harish Reddy, Assistant Professor, Department of EEE, to introduce today's speaker.
Thank you, sir. So today's speaker is Mr. Shahjad Ali Khan. So Mr. Shahjad Ali Khan is a highly accomplished software manager with over 13 years of experience in the industry. He has a proven track record of leading successful software development projects from conception to launch, with a keen eye for detail and a commitment to delivering high quality products. Mr. Shahjad Ali Khan holds a bachelor degree from G. Polarity Engineering College, Autonomous, Kurnool, Solutions, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and also he is a founder of Microcare Academy, Software Training and Placement Institute, Kurnool. Now I will hand over to the session.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Now I request today's speaker to take over the session and address the participants.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Naeem, sir. First of all, I express my gratitude to the GPREC conveners for affording me a chance to converse with aspiring engineers who can be the founders in the future. Today here I am to talk about the .NET development. By the end of this talk, I hope you will have some basic understanding of how a web applications can be built using the .NET technologies. Okay, let me share my screen. It seems that we have some small issue in the streaming. Just wait a minute. Sorry for inconvenience, just 2 minutes. That we have streaming is not on there because I am changing my presentation, but it's not reflecting on the stream. Just hold.
Yes, now it is visible.
Okay. Yeah, but I'm sharing another screen, but okay, fine. Yes. Okay, as I said, today we are going to talk about the .NET technology. Okay, first of all, I would like to say what we are going to have in this session. We will have an introduction to a .NET Core, and we will have like building apps by using the .NET Core. I can show you that various ways of building apps by using .NET Core. And also I would like to introduce, make some small introduction on ASP.NET MVC architecture pattern, and also introduction to the entity framework, which is the object relational mapping. And then we will go through the life cycle of the web application that is developed by using the ASP.NET. And at the end, we will start developing a small web applications on the Visual Studio integrated development environment. So let's dive in. Okay. So .NET Core is an open source class platform development framework which has been created by the Microsoft. The main purpose of a .NET Core is to build a wide range of applications, including mobile, IoT, mobile applications, desktop applications, and mostly the cloud and web applications. This .NET Core has a support for multiple cross-platform operating systems. That is, we can able to write a code that can be run on different operating systems. And the .NET Core supports various programming languages like the VB.NET and the C# and the F#. That is, we can able to write the programming language by using any one of these VB.NET, F# and the C#. And the .NET Core, one of the main important feature is its support for the cloud computing. That is, the developers can build an applications and they can very easily deploy to the cloud computing like the Google Cloud Platform, Amazon Web Services, and the Microsoft Azure. And one of the important feature of the .NET Core is it has a package manager tool, which is a NuGet, where we have millions of packages already exist on the NuGet that any developers, they can able to download the needed libraries from the package manager console NuGet, and they can start developing an applications. And at the end, the .NET supports the very famous development environments, Visual Studio Code and the Visual Studio. So now I would like to say about, because here our target audience are the BTech students who are in the 4th year, and some students maybe they are not from the computer science background, maybe they want to enter into IT industry, so they want to do some internship projects, or they want to build some project from their own as they have some business module. So by using a .NET Core, you can have variety of choices. Like you can consider the web frameworks like Angular.js and the React.js. You can have your client-side, client-facing, which is the famous JavaScript frameworks, Angular.js and the React.js. In the back end, you can have a .NET Core web APIs, and which can be written on the C# programming languages. And in the databases, you can have a SQL Server, MongoDB, Postgre, MySQL. You can have multiple options for a database. So there is one of the one type of applications you can build by using the JS frameworks. If you are developing a mobile applications, then the latest trending technology of the mobile application was the Flutter. This is from the Google, and the Xamarin, and also the React Native. You can build the mobile apps using those technologies, and again you can have your web APIs on the .NET Core, which is running the C# programming language, and the database can be whatever based upon the project requirements like the MySQL, MongoDB, Postgre, and also SQLite, or it can be MySQL. Okay, and there is one famous architecture pattern, which is the Microsoft ASP.NET MVC. That is, by using this ASP.NET MVC Core framework, we can structure our project by using those technologies. Like the front side, the client side facing, we can have the HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript, and we can have a jQuery. We can use the Bootstrap for designing the CSS components. And on the server side, we can have the ASP.NET MVC architecture pattern. We can also use some web APIs, and we can write the code on C#.NET, and also we will have an entity framework core, which is the object relational mapping, and in the database we can have the Microsoft SQL Server. So this is one architecture that we can consider for building an application. So today we are going to focus on this framework, which is the ASP.NET Core MVC framework. We will go through the life cycles, what is MVC and what is the entity framework core, and then we will start building one small application on the .NET. Okay, and yeah, I'm sorry for all the viewers. Actually, because of some internal issues, we went off on the YouTube live. But again, now we are back to the YouTube live. I'm sorry for this inconvenience to the GPRC conveners and also to all the live viewers, the participants. Okay, so I was telling about the full stack .NET Core developer. He's an expert that who can design, that is who can work on the client side facing aspects of an application and also on the back-end side, which can be on the programming and also on the database. So he will be an expert in the UI, back-end, database, GitHub, cloud applications. So this is one of the trending role in the software industry currently. That is, nowadays every company is looking for a full stack developers, whether he can be from Java, he can be from the .NET Core, and he can be from the Python. Okay, so now I would like to stop here regarding to the introduction about the .NET Core. So I would like to now explain you more details about the MVC, Entity Framework Core technology, and then the life cycle for the ASP.NET life cycle. So let me take you there. What exactly the ASP.NET MVC? Okay, so here the ASP.NET MVC, it is a architectural pattern that has been designed by the Microsoft. Okay, so the MVC stands for here is the model, view, and the controller. So the application has been splitted into three components. One is the component is the controller, one is the model, and one is the view. So basically the controller is the one who is going to receive the request from the cloud. Whenever the user enters an URL on the browser, so the request will go to the domain, to the server, and then it will reach to the controller. And from the controller, then we will start preparing a data, and that data is from the model. And from the model, we will bind the data to the view, and from the view, we will be rendered on the UI, which is the browser. So by using this MVC core architecture pattern, okay, it provides us the separation of concern. What is the separation of concern? That is, one team can be working on the controllers, one team can be working on the UI, which is the views, and one team can be working on the models. So it supports for a large team of developers where we have big number of designers and developers, and they want the high degree of control over the application behavior. So this is all about a basic definition or introduction about the MVC. Okay, I would like to give you some small overview about the Entity Framework Core. Okay, in our engineering, actually those who are from computer science background or maybe from the engineering first year, which have a common computer science concepts, we used to hear about the object relational mapping. So the Entity Framework Core, actually it is a cross platform, that is it can be work for different operating systems, lightweight open source object relational mapping framework which has been developed by the Microsoft. What it will do actually, see, in all the applications we need to get the data, we need to interact the data. That is, without the data there are no applications, everything depends upon the data. So the entity framework core, it helps the developers to interact with the database using OOPS concepts, which is the object oriented programming concept, and it will help a developer to fetch the data from a database, to open the connection to a database, fetch the data from the database, and then apply the operations like inserting the data, updating the data, and so on. So the entity framework core, it helps the developer, that the developer no need to worry about how to connect the database, how to open a channel with the database, how to fetch the data from the database. So the entity framework core, it helps the developer, no need to worry about the SQL language. I can write my code in the C#, and the entity framework core, it will convert it into a language which is understanding by a database, and then it will get the data from the database. So entity framework core, it supports various databases like SQL Server, MySQL, Postgre, SQLite, and many others. It has wide range of features like the caching, that is, I want to cache some data, so instead of avoiding to make a multiple round trips to the database, so I can have some caching, and also I can have some change tracking and lazy loading. There are some features that will help the application to perform better. Okay, so in the entity framework core, they have two types of approaches. One is database first approach, and another is the code first approach. So today we are going to talk about the database first approach. What it means actually, it means that I have a database ready, I have a tables in my database is ready, that is, all my database schema is ready. Now I want to generate a .NET objects, that is, I want to generate an entities, or you can say I want to generate a classes. So if I have 1,000 tables in my database, by using the entity framework core, with one script I can generate all the classes that should be similar to a tables, and every column inside this table, it will be like a property of a class. So this is a database first approach. So first we will prepare a data, we will make our database ready, and then we will generate a .NET classes, or you can say an objects inside our application. So we will also go through this when we are building a small application after a few minutes. Okay, so these are the two main core features or technologies that we are going to use in the web application. So now, before I start going to the lab session here now, I would like to give you some small overview how a MVC life cycle will works. That is how it will fetch the data and how it will be delivered to a user. Okay, so here, that is a user who is sitting in front of a laptop or a mobile, and then he is making some request on a URL. So he is going to this domain. He is making a request to this domain through any web browser. So what will happen here is, once the request was sent, the request will reach the server. Okay, the request will reach the server, and on the server they have a life cycle. The life cycle is how a request can be handled, and after handling the request, how we can able to respond to that request so that we can return a data or a response to a user. So whenever a request comes to the ASP.NET MVC web application, the first request will come to a middleware. They have a concept called middleware. Actually, I don't want to go deep inside this middleware because it is little bit complicated, so I don't want you to feel somewhat complex in the very beginning of understanding the application. Okay, so it is basically like a pipelines, that is, it will, if I show you the image so it can be more clear. Here, once the request comes, it will have lot of middlewares. they form like a HTTP request pipeline. They will check for HTTPS redirections. They will check for any static files so that they can load the static files instead of going to the server. And they have a concept called routing. I will explain this. And also they have like authentication and authorization, one of the core concepts of every application. That is, I want to authenticate whether this user is a valid user or not. Authorization, I want to say, okay, he is a valid user, or whether he has an authorization to perform some actions or not. So all these things will be handled on the middleware before the request is going to a controller. Okay, so this is about the middleware. And once the middleware is done, then my request will go to a routing. Routing, they have one of the core concept of a .NET Core is the routing. Okay, the routing is all about, it is a mechanism to map the incoming request. Okay, let's assume that here I have this request. I have my domain example.com, and then I have /home/index. So once this request comes to the server, now the routing engine will become active. It will take this request and they will validate whether this request is a matching our pattern or not. That is, here if you can see, I have one pattern. That is, after the domain name, my pattern is the controller, my pattern is the action, and then I have some parameters on my URL. So if this pattern gets matched, then only my request will go to a controller, will enter inside the web server, like you can say. If my pattern is not matching, then it will say 404, that is, this request is not the valid request. So these things, the pattern matching, it will be handled by a routing, which is a mechanism, and it is one of the components of the middleware. It will take care of all the incoming requests. Once the pattern gets matched, what will happen? Then it will reach to a controller. Controller is the main core component. That is, it is going to handle the user request. It will receive the user request. Once he receives the user request, it will divert it to a particular action method. Just assume that I have a controller like product. In the product, what I used to do with the product, if you go to the Amazon or anywhere, I can add a product, I can edit the product, I can delete the product, I can modify the product, I can make a filter, I can search. So the same way, I have a controller called product, and I have 100 or more than 10, 20, 30 action methods inside the product. Okay, so every request will come to an action method. From the action method, it will accept the HTTP request, it will accept all the parameters. Then from the action method, now I want to perform the action. For example, user is telling that get products. What it means, the get products, once it reaches to the action method get products, now I want to fetch the data from the database. So how it will do, it will go to a model. From the model, I will write a link query. This type of code is the link query. From the link query, I am telling that I want a customers who belongs to a city, Delhi. Once I write this request will reach to the entity framework core, which is an object or relational mapping. So this entity framework core, he is the one who is going to talk with the database. Now the database, if I am using the SQL database, the database only understands one language, which is the SQL language. So the entity framework core, it will convert this link query into a SQL language which will understand by the database. So this entity framework core, it will generate a SQL query and it will be executed on the database. Once it was executed on the database, I will return the results from the database, and the entity framework core, Again, it will take the result from the database and it will be converted into a .NET objects. Like objects in the sense, like it contains the properties, and whatever the data I'm getting on the SQL language, it will be converted into a .NET objects, and then it will return back to a model, and from the model it will again go back to the action. Now in the action result, in the action method, there are different types of responses. If someone in the participants, if someone is working with the mobile applications or APIs, they are working with the JSON result. So from the action result, I can decide that I want to render a view, that is I want to render the HTML to the user, or I want to render the JSON result, or I want to render as a file result, or I want to render some text. So everything I can decide on the action method. Okay, so once my response is ready from the action result, then the response will reach to the user. So this is a life cycle how a MVC web application with the entity framework core works. So now I hope this life cycle is very clear. So we will start now developing one small application by going through all this life cycle. Okay, before I go there, I would just like to show you one more thing. We are going to develop now a small web application with some small 2 screens. I will have one screen called categories and one screen for the products. Okay, so what I said that we are going to use database first approach. So what I need to do, first of all, I need to prepare my database. Once I prepare my database, then we will start a new project, and then we will download the dependencies from the NuGet, and then we will generate the .NET objects from the table, and then we will start controllers, views, and so on. Okay, so now here, this is a database table called product. I have some columns: product ID, title, price, description, and the category ID. And this is the type of data I'm going to store inside these columns. I have one more table called categories, and these are the data types. And here every product belongs to so and so category. So because of that, I have here a foreign key reference. Okay, that is every product has related to one category. So let's start this creating those tables on a database. Here, this is the database management SQL Server Studio. This software which I am showing to you here, SQL Server Management Studio. This studio is used to work with the SQL servers. Okay, what we will go to do now is Object Explorer. I want to connect one server. This is my local server. This is authentication. I am using my Windows authentication. I will connect. Once I connect, I am connecting to one server which is on my local machine. I have very big number of databases, so I would like to create one database with the name called this GPREC. Okay, fine. How I can create? Right click, new database. Just give the name of a database and then click OK. As simple as that. Now you have a database is ready, and inside this database you will not have any tables. Okay, so what I will gonna do is I'm going to add a new table. Right click, new, and then new table. And what I'm going to do here is, we have here called property window. That is, I would like to give the name of a table. Let's say products, and that's it. And then I will give the columns. Let's say I will have a product ID, which I want to make that every product should belongs to one unique ID. So I'm considering this as a product ID, and it should not be a null. Every time it should contain some value, and every product will have a title. I want to give how much length of a title, maximum I can say like 200 length, and I will say that I want one more column for a description, and I want the length, let's say like 500. It can be optional. And then I want to give some price, and it can be on one data type called decimal. And then I will mark this as a primary key of a database. That is, every data inside this column should be a unique. It should not be duplicated. By this, every product will have a unique value. And here one more option that I can make this, that is auto increment. I want to increment every time I am adding a new product. It will automatically take a new product as a new value. Okay. So by what I will gonna do now, I will save the product. Now I will create one more table belongs to a category. Let's say categories, table name. I am giving one unique column which is a category ID of certain data type, and then the title. I want a title for my category, and I can have a description if I need 500. And I want to make this as a primary key. As I said, I want to auto increment whenever I'm adding a new category. This is like identity increment, that is I want to increment yes, and by value 1. I will save this. Now what I am going to do here is I have a categories table and I have a products table, but I want to link my products table with the category. So what I will gonna do, again I will update. I will add a column category ID with some data type int, and what I need to do, I need to make a join between these two tables. I will make by using relationship here, right click, relationship, click on add, tables and column specifications, execute that and specify what is your primary key, categories, and what is the primary key ID, category ID in your products table. What is the column for the foreign key category, which is the category ID. That is, I am going to make a relationship from the products category ID to the categories table category ID, and then click OK, close, and then save the products, click yes. So now what happened here is we have created successfully two tables, one for categories and one for the products. Before I go to the project, I would like to give you some small idea about the database. Okay, here you can right click on the database, click on new query, okay, and you can start writing the queries. For example, here what I will gonna do here is I am going to write a query to fetch a data from the database table. Let's say products, select star from products. I will return nothing because I don't have any data. Okay, let's see about the categories. The categories also, I have no data. So we have some commands to insert the data, which is insert command, insert into categories. I need to specify what are the columns I want to consider, and then I want to pass the values. I can say the values, and what is the title. Let's say I will say the categories are mobiles, okay, or we can say mobile phones, and then the description is mobile and what mobile phones products, just some category, some description. Okay, so now if I execute this, basically what happened here is I am going to insert a data inside the categories table. Let's execute. One row affected. Now again execute this query. Now you will see a result with one category. This is a SQL language. The database knows, the SQL database knows only one language, which is the SQL language. If I want to talk with the database server, I want to write the SQL queries. So I am querying a database here. Please give me all the data from the categories table. So it will give you the result. And here I am telling that, hey database, please insert the data into the categories table. What data I need to insert? I need to insert title, description with so and so values. So what I will gonna do again, I will try to insert one more category. Let's say, if you are familiar with the e-commerce like the Amazon or Myntra, Flipkart, okay, clothing stuff, description. Now again what I will gonna do, I will select this query, I will execute. Again one row has affected. If I go to my categories, now I have what? I have my categories ready. So this is how we can insert a data on the categories. So now let's see how we can able to insert a data on the products. Okay. let's take one more new query here. Now again, I want to get a request from the products. I'm telling a database server, please give me all the products inside the database. Execute. I have no products. So now let's start inserting some data inside the products table. Insert into products. I want to insert on the title some description. I want to specify the price, and I want to specify the category ID. Okay. So now here, what I will gonna do, values. I want to pass the values. Let's say now I want to consider only these two categories. Let's say I have mobile phones, so I will type something like Samsung S23 Ultra, and description I will type like Samsung electronics, and I will specify some price. And here category ID, the category ID, what it should be, actually it is an integer, it should be a number, but this category ID should be any one from here. Why? Because as you saw before, when I'm creating a table, I make this category ID as a foreign key. Foreign key is a primary key of another table, which is this categories table. So it should be any value that should exist inside the categories table. If I'm going to insert 3, it will return an error because I cannot find the value 3 in the categories table. So now I would like to mention this 1 because it belongs to the mobile categories. So now here make it as a 1, and now if I execute this script, which is the insert statement, one row has affected. Now again execute these products. Now you can see you have a data inside your products table, and here category ID is 1. Okay, so now I would like to show you the exception if I give the category ID which is not exist inside the categories table. So let's take like iPhone 13, and I say like iPhone electronics. I will give some price something like 84. Now if I am going to give something 3, so this 3 value in the categories table not exist. So what will happen here is it will throw an exception. So this is one of the good advantage in database, that in the relational database, that I am joining the tables. I am joining the product table with the categories table. So if I am going to insert, if I am going to violating some data, if I am inserting something bad data, corrupted data, then it will throw an exception that it's telling it cannot able to find a value 3 in the categories table in the category ID column. So if I give again here 1 in the place of 3, then this will be executed successfully, and I will have a data in the products table. So by this, all my these two tables, product and categories, have a valid consistent data. Okay, so now I would like to guide you one more thing about, I think you all are aware about in the engineering, if you are from computer science background, or little bit knowledge about the database that we studied in the first year of engineering, that is the joins, inner join, outer join, left join. So the SQL database, it supports lot of joins. What is joins? The joins is, I want to bring the data from multiple tables. Okay, look, let's see now. For example, now I want to display a data like this from the product. I want to know the title, I want to know the price, I want to know the category, not the value. I want to know the category title. You can say like this. How I can fetch this data from the products table? In the products table, if you see here, we don't have any category ID, category title. I have what? Category ID. This category ID is a relationship to the categories table. So by using this relationship, I can able to fetch the title of a category from the category table. Let's see how we can do that. So here what I will gonna do, select store from products. Now I will use one of the important concept, which is the joins. That is, I will use the inner join. Now I want to join the table categories. Okay, based upon what I want to join, I am saying that categories dot category ID equals to products dot category ID. After I joining this, what will happen here is if I execute this, you will see the data from both the tables. See, now I am bringing the data from two tables. That is my query, it's executing that, it's bringing the data by joining the two tables. So now again from this table, I want to get my requirement, that is this. Store, it tells that fetch all the data from all the tables which I am joining. If I remove the store and I will say that from the products display the title, from the products display the price, and from the categories display the title, I will say as I want to give, for example, if I run this script, now I have a data from two tables. But here I am getting confused in the column title and title. This title is coming from the product, this title is coming from the categories. So I have an option to rename my column name as, let's say, as a category. So what will happen here is if I execute again, so now I able to get the data which has needed by me, that is a product. Again I can say here as a product, and again I execute. Now I have a very meaningful names that I have a product, this is a price, and it belongs to a category mobile phones. So this is all about a database that we are going to work now, that is the products and also a categories. So now let's jump to the creating a new project from the Visual Studio. So this is a Visual Studio 202 version. Okay, once I start opening this, again if I click execute, let's start the Visual Studio 2022, and here we have an option. I can clone from the GitHub, I can open an existing project, or I can create a new project. So let's create a new project now. Okay, so here the Visual Studio, as I told you that by using a .NET I can build various applications, mobile applications, Blazor, web applications, and this is a cloud Azure functions, and I can also build ASP.NET Core with Angular, ASP.NET Core with React.js. I can also build the test projects lot, and also console applications, web forms, WPF applications, lot of templates. If I see here, all these projects I can build by using a .NET. Everything, web APIs, test, web, mobile, IoT, games, desktop, console, cloud, ASP.NET Core, and so on. So now we are going to start working on ASP.NET Core web app. I selected here and then I click next. Now I want to give some name. I will give this name, let's say as e-commerce, and I want to specify the location of my project. I will say in here I will give one folder, let's say GP or easy .NET. I can say this is my folder. Actually this is the place I want to store my project. I select this folder, and this is my project name, my solution name, and just click on next. And what is the framework I want to use? Now the latest framework was .NET 7, the version. I am using the latest one. I am not going to enable any Docker services for time being. Click on create. Now it will take some few seconds to create a project. So yeah, now a project has been created. Okay, if I open this Solution Explorer from here, you can see my project has been created. By default, it has some folders like www-root. This www-root, contains all my static files like the HTML files, JavaScript files. And here I have my pages, which is the view, because we are working on ASP.NET MVC model view controller. So I have some pages in the form of a view, and here I have app settings, I can keep all my keys, some settings of the application here, and the program.cs, this is the startup file. This is the startup file for my project. Okay, as I told you in the ASP.NET lifecycle here, if I go up, I have lot of middlewares as I told you here. These all middlewares, if as you can see here in the project, it is by default comes with some inbuilt middlewares, that is here. I want the HTTPS redirections, I want to use the static files, that is, I don't want to download the files again and again. So these static files will be cached on the browser, and I'm enabling the routing, authorization, and then I'm going to use with the views, and then after that my application will start here. Okay, so now our application is ready. Just we created a project. From here you can execute or run the project. Once I run this project, what will happen here is you will see some default view. That is, whenever you create a new project, you will see one default view. Let's see that now. Come on, what's happening? Yeah, so this is a default you can say a project that comes once you are creating a project. Okay, that is home. I have some privacy, there is some data here, and so on. So what we are going to do now here is we are going to change here. We are going to see products, we are going to see the categories, we are going to see some table of the products. Okay, now before I start doing, as I told you that the .NET Core, .NET, it has a support for a NuGet packages. First of all, now I want to install all the dependencies. This is a folder where you can have a dependencies. Now I have a dependency of entity framework. So what I have to do, I have to download the entity framework from the NuGet package container. This is from the Microsoft. That is, this is the source, nuget.org. So what I'm going to do is, I want to install all my dependencies. As simple as that, just select the dependency. See here, 669 million downloads. You can assume that how many projects that this library has been installed there. Installed. Once it's installed, accept. You will see here the tick mark that tells that this has been installed. I want to install some more dependencies of the entity framework core. Accept. And again I want to install, basically I have like 6 dependencies for the entity framework core. So I am going to install them very quickly, very fast. As you can see, I am installing this from the cloud actually. You know, it's hitting this website, this domain, and it's installing inside my project. It's within the seconds it has been installing. Okay, so after the design, I am telling that I want to work with the SQL server. So I want to install that. This is the 5th one, and finally I have one more thing, which is the entity framework core tools. This is tick. Okay, now again I will install the tools. That's it. So now I downloaded all my dependencies for my project, because inside this project I am using the entity framework core. If some projects, if they are not using the entity framework core, so they don't need to install. So once I install, I can see all my packages that has been downloaded from the NuGet. Okay, so now I am ready to start using the entity framework core. As I told you, so in the presentation here, that let me take you there, because I want you to be aligned with me. Okay, here go to the framework core. As I told you that we have 2 types of approaches. Now I am going to use the approach of database first approach. Now my database is ready. Now I want to generate a .NET objects by using the database first approach. How we can do that? First of all, from this project, I want to make a connection with the database. The database can be on my local machine, or it can be on my company server, or it can be on the cloud, on any cloud. The database can be anywhere. So I want to make that connection. How you can do this in the connection? It's with one line of code. I will go to the tools, NuGet package manager, NuGet packager console. From here, actually I have some ready-made script ready actually. This is the script, that is, I will try to explain this script to you before I execute. Okay, copy and then paste it here. Before that, I would like to say that here what I am doing, I am going to make a connection string, that is, this is my server and this is my database and this is my credentials, okay, and I am using the SQL server, and I am telling that I want to generate the entities inside this folder, this directory. So I don't have this directory now, so what I will gonna do, first of all, I will create one folder. Where is the add? Yeah, folder. I would like to say that entities. That is, I want to generate all the entities inside this directory, okay. After this, if I just click on enter, so it will start building my application, and my build was succeed. Now it is generating the tables as an entities. Now it's done, it's ready. Close this, expand this. Now you can see here categories and products. Just open the product, see product ID, title, description, price. From where it was generated, it was not exist. As I told you, that entity framework core, it has an option called database first approach. So I am using that approach. By using these tables, I am generating these classes. So if I have hundreds of tables, it within the few minutes it will generate all the classes. So it has generated the category and the product. Now there is one more class called e-commerce DB. Actually, this is the class that opens a session, a channel towards the server, SQL server. So by using this DB context class, this is the responsible for opening a communication or a channel with the database, and it will perform the operations like fetching the data, inserting the data, updating the data, deleting the data. Okay, and inside this file I have a connection string here. You can see, that is, I am telling that my database is on this local server, and this is my name of the server, and this is my credentials. Based upon that, it will connect that database and it will go to a particular tables, it will insert and delete. Okay, now my entities are ready. Now what we need to do here is just try to run as I told you. What we are going to do now is to start preparing some screens. Okay, that is, let me again take you to incline with the life cycle, because if you see a life cycle and if you see the project, you will understand basically. Now first of all, I need a routing pattern. Okay, before I need the routing pattern, I want to route to a particular controller, to a particular action method. So I want to create some controller. Inside every controller I need some action methods. Okay, so we are going to do that now. As you can see here, now I want to change these to products and then to a categories. So, and basically I want to explain you one thing. As you can see here, once I click on privacy, once I click on home, you will see here you are changing some URL, but the layout is what? You have some header and you have some footer. This header and footer it looks like a consistent, and only the body it gets changed. So this is what we call as a layout. Every project, every web application have a layout. Only the content gets changed whenever I am redirecting to a new pages. Okay, so by default the project, once we create an application, our project here in the Visual Studio, it has one layout file. Okay, and this layout file by default it comes with Bootstrap, CSS, and also with some inbuilt CSS files, and I have some body, and here as you can see I have a name. Okay, what I can say, just I will change here to like microcare e-commerce, and here you can see I have some links like home and privacy, and I have a body here, and I have a footer. Okay, and I have some scripts. I will change my scripts, I will keep it on the header. I hope lot of everyone is aware about the HTML. HTML has a one skeleton, that is the HTML tag, head tag, and then the body tag, and everything will be under the HTML ending tag. Okay, so what we are going to do now here is, first of all, I want to create a controller. Okay, let's create a controller. How I can create? Right click on the project, click on add, click on the new scaffold item. Okay, and then you can select what I want to add. I want to add a controller. Okay, add. I want to give some name to a controller. Let's give the name as a product controller.cs and click add. So now here my controller is ready to receive a request, but only controller is not sufficient. The controller must contains an action methods. That is, what is the end point? What is your end point? What you need? For example, like get products, add product, edit product, delete product. These all are the action methods. So what I will gonna do here is, now I will specify one action method which is products. Okay, and then I want to return a view. So this is what we just saw in the life cycle, which is a product, the controller, it will have an action, and from the action I am telling that I want to render a view which is the HTML. If you see again to the life cycle here, what is the action method it's returning? It can be returning any one result. So here I am going to result a view result, which is I want to return a view, that is I want to display, render a HTML to the user. Okay. Okay, now this is the products. Now I want to create a view. How I can create a view? I will just click a right click on the action method, add view. I am telling a razor view, click add, and here by default it contains some templates. I can use those templates to increase my productivity. For example, I want to be template as a list. So what it will do, it will automatically prepare a table for me. And I am telling that what is the model. That is, I am going to bring the products. I am telling that, okay, what is the class you want to use? Okay, if I don't want to use this, also sufficient. Let me select this. And I am telling that what is the layout I want to use. I will go to a particular layout file, this file, click on OK, click on add. So now what I am doing is, now this will create a view, and also I am using a template called list. It will display all the needed HTML content inside the view. As simple as that. I will show you now in very few seconds. It will take some time. For the first time I am creating a view on the project, because it is used to download some templates from the cloud. Yeah, see now here what happened. It's generated me all the template. What is this template actually? I am telling that I am using my layout. Okay, I am displaying a product as a header tag. I have a paragraph called create new. I can say this as a add new, for example. I don't want to have any action method, and I'm using one table, and the table contains the header like the title. If you want, you can remove this. You can specify your text title, okay, and you can give your own like a description, and then you can specify if you want to remove this. You can specify like a price, and you can specify here like a category. And after this header, what I am doing, I am going to have a every row from the model. This is the C# code, that is I am looping through all the products. This item means here actually it's a product. So I can also remove this. I can do like product dot title, and here I would like to display like product dot description, and here I will say like product dot price, and here in the category, okay, how I can do here is product dot category, this is another class. From that class, I will fetch the title. We call this as a navigation property of a product. And for time being, I will try to remove some action methods from here. Okay, remove this. Okay. Now, my template is ready. This is just a view. That is, as I told you that one developer, one designer can work on the view and one person can work on preparing the backend side controllers. So by this will help me to work with the large teams where I have multiple web designers and also the backend developers. So now, if I run this, let's see what will happen. Okay, now the title has been changed, but now I want to redirect to the products table. So I want to change it here. So what I want to do, I will go to a layout file. In the layout file, I will change that I want to be a link of products. Okay, but once I click on that link, where I want you to take you. So what I will say that, I am telling that please take me to this action called products, okay, and to the controller called product. That is, I want to go to a product controller and then I want to go to this products action method whenever I click the link products. Okay, just change this one to the products. Okay, and here I have one more thing called categories, and what I have to do in the categories, again I need to create some controller for the categories. So let's create that one as well quickly. I will right click, add new scaffold item, MVC empty controller, click on add. I will give one name here as a category controller.cs, click on add. Now a category control has been created. Now I want one action result here, that is I want like categories. I want to display the categories and I want to render the view and HTML to the user. So now from the layout, I want to specify whenever I click the categories link, I want to come to this controller and to this method. So what I have to do basically here, I have to specify, okay, what is the controller you want to go? I want to go to the controller called category, okay. And what is the action you want to go? I want to go to the categories action, okay. Now, if I run this, you will see here products. If I click on the product, it's not displaying anything because we have some inbuilt pages that we have to be removed, which is the index page, yeah, and also I will remove the privacy, yeah. And guys, to all participants, as I told you, before my request comes to the controller, I need to have a routing. I need to have specify a pattern of my route. So this is the one important thing before I make a request to a controller. So what I need to do, I will go to the routing, I will configure my routing pattern here, where I have to configure actually, I have to go to my startup file, program.cs, and then I will just try to add these two routing patterns here. I want to map the controllers, it is a middleware. I am specifying the pattern and I am telling that by default it will go to the product and the products, and it's telling that my pattern, for example here, my pattern will be a controller and action and then followed by some parameters. So always my request should be in this pattern, domain name, controller, action. And here I'm specifying by default, once I'm running this application, I want to go to a product controller and to the product action. So now if I change this to, for example, like a category, and then here if I say like categories action method, so what will happen here is by default it will go to that particular method. Now let's run this one again. Okay, I am not going to find the categories because we didn't generate it. If you can see here, I have a view, I have a products view, but we didn't generate the view for the category. So it's throwing me an error that is telling that the view categories was not found. This is coming from where? From the routing engine, that it cannot able to find a view with the name categories.cshtml. So what I will gonna do now here is, again I will stop the project, running the project, right click, add view. I want to use a razor view, and then I will specify it contains a list. Okay, what is the model, what data you need? I need from the categories. I want to use this layout, which is a common layout for all my screens. I will click on add. So now it will create a view for me. I would like to say that time is going to be up, but because of some delay, we are extending the time for another 15 to 20 minutes. So stay tuned. You will see now one small
Yes, you can continue. You can
small
continue.
web application.
No problem.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, now here in the categories, now this view has been ready. This view has been created. So now if I again run this project, yeah, we are getting an exception now. Actually, I am making you to take you exceptions, that now I am getting an exception, model is null. Why it's null? Because if I go to the categories controller, as you see this here, now I reach to the controller, I have an action method. Now I want to fetch the data. Now I still not able to fetch any data. Now it's telling me that it's a null because you are not fetching any data from the database. So now what I have to do here is, on my action result, now I want to prepare a data. In order to prepare a data, as I told you that I need to write a link query to the entity framework, and the entity framework will do what? It will generate the SQL query, it will execute on database, it will fetch the data, and then it will convert it into the .NET objects. It will go to the action method, and then it will render to the UI. So what I will gonna do now is, now I want to start connecting the database. As I told you, e-commerce DB context, this is the class who is responsible for connecting or talking with the database. So what I will gonna do is, I will create an object of this is an object for the class e-commerce DB context. Just by doing this, I am now opening a channel or a communication tunnel towards the database. So from this channel, now I will say that variable, I will say from, for example, okay, maybe you will get some confused. Because this is disposing the objects, you can make it like this for simplicity. Variable categories is equals to db context dot categories. How I can able to fetch now here? What will happen is, it will generate, okay, SQL query. What SQL query? Like select star from categories, and then it will talk to a database. It will fetch all the categories into as objects, and I will bind these categories to my view, and it will be rendered on the UI. Okay, here we have an option called breakpoint. We can able to see how the data is coming step by step. Let's see this. Let me stop the running the project, again run. You will see now that this breakpoint, we call this as a breakpoint. This breakpoint now it's hit. Now I can able to debug my code. F10. If you just keep a hover, view, result view. Now you can see that I am fetching a data of my categories from my database table, like the clothing stuff, ID, title, and so on. Now I am binding this data as a model to my view. From the view, it will render now the data on the UI. So now what happened here is, from the controller, my request went to the action method. From the action method, I returned the link query. And then from that link query, the DB context, he is the one who is responsible for connecting to the database, talking with the database, fetching the data. So now he is fetching the categories data, and then it is giving to the view, and inside the view, I have a table. Okay, I have some headers, and then I am looping through all the categories, and then I am displaying the category data. So by this, I can able to see this result directly coming from my database. Okay, we will do the similar thing for the products now. See, once I click on the product, what happened here is I get an error because we still not implemented the products fetching from the database. Okay. See here, whenever I click on categories, my request is coming here. Again, try to notice, I am clicking here categories, my request is coming to the category controller and to this action method, and the code is getting executed. Okay, so now what I will gonna do now, I will stop this. Now I will go to the product controller. The same thing I will write here, that is new e-commerce DB context. Now I am starting a channel, a communication channel with the database, and I am telling, see here, from Visual Studio, this is the artificial intelligence, they are predicting my code. I still didn't type anything. As you can see there in the gray color, variable products, DB context.products. So it's guessing me that, do you want to use this code? If I just click on tab, I don't need to write it down anything. Okay, and then I will bind this to the view. As simple as that. So what's happening here is, I will keep a breakpoint to see I am opening a channel, and then I am fetching all the products, and then I am giving to the view, and then I am displaying and rendering to the user. Again, click on run. Okay, this is coming from the category. Why it's coming from the categories now? As I told you, in the program.cs, I define my default route. The default route is category controller and the categories. So always it's coming to my categories controller, F5. So now you will see the categories. Now I have a link here, products. If I click on the product, now you see the request is coming to a product controller, to a products action method. I am fetching the data, and then I am displaying. Yeah, now we face one error here, that is, this is category is null. In the entity framework core, as you can see here, this one, I have an inner join. So the same thing, I want to specify from the code to the entity framework core that please use the inner join to bring the categories data. For that, what we have to do here is, this is going to generate a script, select statement. What it will gonna do for now, it will generate select star from products. But what I need here is, I want select star from products, and also I want to make an inner join. I will just take a copy here to just tell you. So I am telling that I want to make an inner join to bring the categories information also. In order to do that, what we will gonna do here is, in the link query, we have a concept called products.include. I want to include the category also. So this double slash, it means a comment. So this code will not execute. We used to use this in order to write some comments on the code. So now this code, what I am doing is, for every product, I am including the category details. So try to save your project and then run this project. Now what will happen here is, you will be able to see a category for every product. Now this is the categories. Now go to the products. Now see here, you have a category. Now this data, it is coming from where? It is coming from the database. Okay, so again, if you go to database here, tables, from the tables, you can also able to edit the data, edit top 200, okay, and also you can edit the categories data, edit top 200. You can able to view, okay, now I would like to give one more title, let's say like jeans. What jeans? I can say like orange. Okay, jeans, whatever the price, 2000, and this belongs to category 2, which is what? Try to notice this value here. Okay, I'm giving 2 because 2 here is the clothing. Once I click on enter, it is getting 4. Why it's getting 4? If you remember in the very beginning when I'm creating a product table, I am telling that this product ID, it should be auto increment. By this, every product has a unique value. Okay, now just come here, reload this page, now you will see a data. And the same thing, go to the categories, you have 2 categories. Now again I will go to the categories, I will say here something like the laptops, and try to focus this value again. It is auto increment, it will increment to as a 3. Now just go to your project, execute 3. Why? How it's coming? Because my project has been connected with a database, and the entity framework core, it will open a channel with the database, it will fetch the data from the database, and then it will bind to the view and it will be rendered to the user. So this is a simple demonstration I can say about how we can able to create a MVC project, okay, as a web application, and we can host this web application on the cloud. Maybe not now, in future, if the Dr. Abid sir, if give me some opportunity in the future, I will also demonstrate about how we can able to deploy the applications on the cloud and some cloud technologies like Microsoft Azure, and we can see in the future about that. But now I hope everyone is getting some clear idea that how we can able to create the web application by using the ASP.NET. Here currently actually I'm just displaying the list. We can also do like adding the category directly from here, and also editing the details. We can delete it, we can view everything, but time is not supporting for me because we are running out of time. Maybe in the coming sessions, again we will have some more sessions in the future to about the deploying the applications on the cloud and so on. Okay, basically in our Microcare Academy, actually we are going through the internship projects for the ASP.NET Core. We have like a 4 months genuine internship project, because this Microcare Academy, it is under the software company, and we are giving a internship certificates from the company itself, which can be valid for any IT industry. And we used to train them running the applications that contains a login page, register page, add to cart, like we do in the e-commerce, and generating the orders and so on. So you can also consult if anyone is interested in having the internships on the .NET Core. So you can also consult the administration of the Microcare Academy. That's it for today's session about the .NET Core. So I'm waiting for any queries from your side. You can type it on the chat.
Participants are requested to post your queries in the chat box, and also feedback link will be posted in the chat box.
Yeah, feedback link has been posted now. You can also check there.
Feedback link will be active till 5 p.m. only. So participants are requested to fill the feedback form to get the participation certificate. If any queries, please feel free. Type your queries in the chat window.
Okay, Dr. Naeem sir, I think they have
One question from our participant, Jajat.
Yeah.
So they are asking how to interface the HTML, CSS with this SQL and .NET.
It's not clear. Can you please again ask some question, please?
How can we interface the front end and back end?
Yeah.
That is HTML, CSS with this Microsoft Visual using Microsoft.
Yes. As you can see here, as I told you, in the layout, we have
Yes.
a common layout, and I can keep my CSS files here.
Yes.
Okay, and also here, what I did here, what we have by default, I'm using the Bootstrap. Bootstrap is a CSS framework that contains, if you see here in the output result, I'm displaying a table. This table actually it is coming from the Bootstrap. If I see, go to the categories, and I will use one class called table dork. This is coming from the Bootstrap CSS. Okay, if I just save and click on hot reload, if I go to these categories, now you can see here it has been changed to the black. Can you
Yes.
can you able to see that?
Yes.
So this is how we can work with this view. In the .NET we call this view, and I can able to integrate, embed my C# programming. This is the C# programming with the front end. This gives the more flexibility to take control about what we are going to display to the user. Dr. Naeem sir, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, and also here in this page, if you want to write some CSS, you can also write a CSS like this style. You can type that what is the style. Okay, now here you can type whatever the CSS you want to type for a particular element. Like if I all the table, you can have some CSS
Different.
tags.
Yes, color.
Yeah, whatever the things. And also you can also write your the JavaScript here by using the script tag here. Okay, and then you can also use the jQuery here and like alert. Okay, this is a dummy alert, that is whenever it comes this will be executed. If you see here, like if I come to the categories again, I get an alert from the JavaScript and so on. So you can have styles and the JavaScript code and so on inside the view. It's a very handy. So basically the view, we use like the HTML and CSS, Bootstrap, JavaScript and jQuery. In the backend side, as you can see the controller, we will have the C# coding and the Entity Framework Core and the database.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And one more question. After designing the website, which service provider is the best to make our website online?
To be frank, it little bit depends upon the project, and I can say that if you are using the Microsoft technologies, then it's very convenient to use the Microsoft Azure cloud provider, because within few clicks I can deploy my project, my application on the cloud.
Okay.
So, and it has very good integrated with the GitHub version control. I can also make the automation between the GitHub repository and also the Azure cloud.
Okay. What will be the cost per year cost?
Actually, sir, here the per year cost, it depends upon the usage. If you are in the cloud, you have like pay as you go model. Pay as you go model, it means like how much you are using the application on the cloud, they will charge you. And they have one called reservations. Reservations in the sense like you can reserve some services for 2 years, 3 years, they will provide you some discount. This is for the platform as a service. They have some 3 type of services on the cloud: infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. Infrastructure as a service, the cloud, they will only provide you the virtual machines, okay, and with the operating system. So now we are the responsible for installing the softwares. We are responsible for deploying the keeping the IIS server there, in deploying the application and the SQL servers. Everything should be taken care by me in the infrastructure, because the cloud computing services, the providers, they provide only the infrastructure for you. If you are going for the platform as a service, they will provide you complete platform like app services, SQL servers, storage, everything. So you can very easily deploy the application on those app services. The security will be taken care by the Microsoft Azure, the cloud providers, and the health checks, everything will be taken care by them. Only thing you have to do here is you have to deploy them, you have to make a connections and go. So if you are using infrastructure as a service, you have a different cost. If you are using platform as a service, it has a different cost. So the best approach I feel is, if you don't want the headache of taking the responsibility of handling the server on the cloud, you can go with the platform as a service. The Microsoft will provide you the platform, the services for you. Just you have to deploy the project on the cloud, and you will just sit freely and watch the application actually.
Thank you very much for sharing your valuable information. I request all the participants to submit the feedback. Feedback link has been already shared in the YouTube live session. So the feedback link will be active only till 5 p.m. only. Any more queries, participants? Yes, sir. Now I request Sri K. Harish Reddy, Assistant Professor of EEE Department, G. Pullareddy Engineering College Autonomous, Kurnool, to propose vote of thanks.
Thank you, sir. Good evening to one and all. I, K. Harish Reddy, Assistant Professor of EEE, take it a privilege to propose vote of thanks. I feel it privileged to thank each and everyone for attending this webinar on web development on 15th April 2023, organized by Department of Electrical and Electronics Engineering and Department of Emerging Technologies in Computer Science in association with NI LabView Academy of GPREC and Microcare Academy, Kurnool. First of all, I would like to thank our resource person, Mr. Shahjad Ali Khan, Development Manager, Microcare Solutions, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, for dedicating his valuable time with us. Thank you, sir. Also, I thank our Honorable Chairman, Sri P. Subbareddy Garu of G. Pullareddy Engineering College, for supporting financially. Thank you, sir. I thank our Principal, Dr. B. Srinivas Reddy Garu, for providing logistics. Thank you, sir. I thank Head of the EEE Department, Dr. K. Sri Gauri, for her continuous support. Thank you, madam. I also thank Head of the ECS Department, Dr. R. Praveen Sham, for his continuous support. Thank you, sir. I also thank to all the HODs, professors, in charges of various cells of our college and faculty. I thank to the Dr. Abid Naimuddin, convener of the webinar, Dr. G. Venkat Subbareddy, co-convener, Sri K. Srikant, co-convener, and Dr. B.V. Arun Kumar, co-convener, all the organizing members of this webinar for their efforts in making this function a grand success. I thank all the participants for attending this webinar, and I thank those who supported directly and indirectly in making this webinar a grand success. Thank you. Now I request Dr. Abid Naimuddin, convener of webinar, to take over the session.
Thank you, Sri K. Harish Reddy Garu, for providing the vote of thanks. So that's it. Here is the end of the session. Once again, on behalf of EEE Department and GPREC, from the bottom of my heart, I thank Sajjad Ali Khan for accepting our invitation and providing a time and sharing his experience to the participants. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Naeem sir. Thank you for everyone. I hope this will help the students to understand the .NET technology. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.